Everybody, Meg Ruler 31 back here for FSI DFS. We are going to be breaking down the 8-game night slate for Thursday, the 22nd of July. And how's your home run achievements going for DK? I have 2 teams left. I'm trying to wait on the Texas Rangers and the Los Angeles Angels. It's not a bad thing. It's kind of fun. What I did to get to where I am is playing normal slates, but also just stacking teams in the dime. And if you get the achievement, you end up with 2,530 crowns, which is not a ton, but it's something. So it's been fun trying to get that. And hopefully with Texas, and they're playing the showdown slate early today at 1, and Los Angeles tonight, I'll have those done pretty soon. So this slate is weather-wise is great. It doesn't look like anything more than maybe wildfire smog that's in certain areas of the region be affecting the southeast right now. And as I look at the games, I don't think there's any games in the southeast, so not an issue there for air quality or visibility or anything like that. So it's a slate where pitching's okay. I mean, we've had that last couple of days, and some of the guys that look like they would have been the best options really haven't panned out. Some rando guys have, if you played them in GPPs, have been more solid than some of the chalkier guys. And there have been like some days where there've been like a lot of home runs, and it's just a weird time after the All-Star break as things start to settle back in. But good news is over the weekend, we start to get some better pitchers coming out, and things should start to right themselves again. However, we are 8 days away from the trade deadline, so we'll just have to watch people like Joey Gallo and Chris Bryant and some of the other ones that might be moved, might be making moves, which teams are going to buy, which teams are going to sell. Is Texas and the Braves going to start sending off assets, or the Yankees and other teams that have some injuries that are trying to get better, going to pull people in? So when they do, like where the role is going to be, it's not like basketball, like obviously if you start in baseball, but then again, sometimes as these teams load up with different options, they become more pinch hit risks. So we'll cover all that when it comes to it. But right now, I think we're still in the safe zone. So let's look at this slate today. So first game we're going to look at is the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies. You have Charlie Morton and Matt Moore. Morton has been a bad pitcher. Philly has been hit or miss with hitting. They obviously have some good power hitters here, but they only have a couple lefties in the lineup. You have pretty much Harper, Gregorius, and Janikowski, who is okay, but not great. Harper is pretty much matchup proof. You can play him against lefties or righties. But the rest of the guys, there are some Ks in this lineup. There's a lot of right-handed hitters, so I think Morton's okay here. I think there's a couple better options possibly. They only have a 4.22 total. I'm at more on the other side, 5.8. Even though the Braves don't have Acuna anymore, and Peterson is lefty-lefty matchup, Freeman's lefty-lefty matchup, I would not too keen on Matt Moore here. I think maybe in a GPP is fine. I know he went out versus Miami and had like 20 DK points, but the last probably 6 or 7 games before that, like there's sometimes he only makes like 4 innings, and there were several ones where he only made like 1 or 2 innings. I don't know if it was just that bad or an opener, but single digit DK points. So I think his like ceiling is 10, and I wouldn't be surprised if he only ends up with like 5 DK points or like so not really interested there. Bat wise, I think either one of these make good GPP stacks, especially like the righties on. I think you could probably throw Freeman in there, but if you want to play like Swanson and LBs and Riley with Freeman, and I'd probably skip Peterson, and maybe he won't even lead off. Maybe it'll be Almonte or Heredia or somebody else up there. And if there is a really cheap leadoff guy that's a righty against Moore who's a lefty, then definitely it's somebody I would lock in. Matt Moore on the other side, or not Matt Moore, looking at the Philadelphia Phillies against Morton. I think you could take Harper. I think you could take Gregorius. McCutcheon, Hoskins, Real Muto, they've all been decent. Even Segura doesn't really strike out much. So again, I think you could stack them, but I'm not really. Maybe take Harper as a one-off if you have a lot of salary left in outfield. But other than that, not super interested in this game. It's not a complete write-off, but it's not something that I'm making a huge priority. Next game, you have the Yankees and the Red Sox. Yep, they're playing again. They just played last weekend, and this one's in Boston. So you have Jordan Montgomery, who's been okay this season, and then you have Tanner Houck. And Houck, he's only been going like 3 to 4 innings. And I know the Yankees are banged up and they're missing some of the big bats through injuries and through COVID. But actually, some of these filling guys haven't been that bad. So I think, Houck is intriguing at 5.3, but again, you're only probably looking at 3 to 4 innings, and the Yankees have gone cold sometimes, and especially on the road. So he's, I think, probably a YOLO play, but maybe a step more. I'd call more like a punt. I don't think it's that drastic, but I don't know if you really need him tonight. There's really not super high price stacks to try to jam in. So just keep him in mind if you want to do something different, or if you're trying to stack a lot of big bats and you're looking for a cheap pitcher. I think he can definitely work out there. Jordan Montgomery, I think's okay. There's other guys that I'd rather play. I think he does okay. If looking at his last couple, he just faced Boston. He had a 12.5. So I mean, that's not great. He went 6 innings. He's usually around 10 to 12 DK points with a couple outlier 20-point ones against weaker offenses. So I don't know. I'm not too much on him. I really like the right-handed power bats that Boston has here. So, and they've been hitting home runs in bunches recently. So I probably won't play Montgomery. I'm not saying that he's a complete gas can or like a complete fade, but I just don't like him in this game here. I think there'll be runs here. It's a 10 total. Even with the Yankees being banged up, I think if you want to stack them in a GPP, I think you have a really good savings here. Keep in mind, like Greg Allen is not a bad player. He has his last 3 games. He has 12 DK points, 21 DK points, and 16 DK points. And he's getting it from like stolen bases. This guy has some speed. He's making contact. He's only getting like maybe 1 or 2 hits in a game, but with his speed, he's like turning the hits into multiple points here. So I like him. I think he's a good young player. I think he has a lot of upside. Florial also, he's had 3 games also. He had 12 DK points, 18 DK points, and 5 DK points. He actually had a home run. He's got a little bit more power, but he has 1 stolen base, but he doesn't have the speed. But I think these guys make like really cheap plays if you want to do like a wraparound stack or something like that. I think Stanton, LeMahieu is back and seems okay. Odor continues to have a renaissance season. Early on in the season, I was so down on him, but at this point, I think he's definitely a serviceable player. Yeah, he goes through stretches where he only gets single digits, but he has the potential. He had a home run last night. I think against this pitcher in this matchup, he's got a good chance of possibly hitting another home run. Wind's blowing out a little bit to right field, 4 miles per hour. Boston side of it, love the righties. I think they'd be my second favorite stack. Hernandez, JD, Santana came back and then hurt his groin again. So JD might move up to the second hole here. Xander, Renfroe, Vasquez is a catcher at 2.9, has the split advantage, has some power. Dahlback hit a home run last night. Chavis is dirt cheap. No, sorry, Dahlback didn't hit a home run last night. He was 1 for 4, but it was Chavis. I get those two confused. But Chavis is 2K. He's got the split advantage, and even though he hits down, and then even Duran is still in the lineup at 2-2. I don't like him with the lefty matchup, but he's been okay since he first started here. His first game, he had 7 DK points. The second game, he had 16. So I just keep an eye on him. I don't think it's the game to play him, but if he fits into your stack, if you don't want to skip a position or you need like the 2.2, but then again, like I said, you have Chavis at like 2K also and Dahlback at 2.4. So I don't think you really need Duran here. unless you're going like double stud pitchers and you want to build like a 7, 8, 9 stack. If that's where they end up in the lineup, I think that's fine. But like I said, keep your eye on Duran. The Yankees have a good bullpen, so I really don't like him here. But in like future matchups, if he stays in this lineup and stays under like 3K, he's definitely someone I like for the future. And that's being a Yankee fan saying that I like a Red Sox too. Actually, I just respect what this team has been doing for DFS purposes. Sometimes you have to take your heart out and use your head and play teams that are your arch rivals or enemies or players that you completely can't stand in real life, but they are good for you in DFS. Okay, moving on. The next game is the San Diego Padres against the Miami Marlins. You have Blake Snell, who is, I call him Blake Shell, not because he's giving up a lot of runs, but just because he just seems like a shell of himself recently. 4 earned runs against Washington last time out. He's given up 7 runs, 3 runs. He hasn't had a quality start in about 5 games. He's just struggling this season for some reason. It's just hard to see. He was so good at Tampa Bay, and then we thought he'd be so good at moving over to the Padres, and it just hasn't translated. But at his price at 7-8, and he has had a couple outlier games where he has done well. He had a game against the Dodgers where he had like 21. He had a game against the Mets where he had like 38. So it's still there. But in the meantime, like look at his scores is like 0.4. So it barely like got above the 0. He had 10, he had 21, negative 11, 6, 38, negative 6, 7, 8. It's just crazy how all over the place he is. Now, maybe it's like a different phase of the moon where he's going to be good or what's going on, but I actually think he's going to get a lot of ownership tonight, and I think he might have a ceiling of like 20 DK points against this Marlin team. It's in a pitching park, and they are banged up. They've got a lot of guys, Jazz, Cooper, a bunch of guys out of this lineup, so they are not that scary. And I think, if you want to play him in cash, he's okay. I think I'm going to same as GPP. I might have some shares of him just because I'm interested in this matchup. But Zach Thomas on the other side at 8-9, he's a good young pitcher, but that's kind of high to pay for him. It might be something where you can play him in risk and reward. Like he hasn't had under 10 DK points in his last 5 starts. He has had some starts where he's had like 30, 20, 24 DK points. He's had a couple quality starts. His strikeouts are around 6 to 7. So possibly, but this Padre offense is really, really good. The ballpark factor helps him, but I don't see him getting any more than like maybe 12, 15 DK points. And I think at almost 9K, that's a little too pricey. If he was like 7.5, I'd definitely consider him here. So I think I'm out on him, but if you think he's going to have a really good day in the Padres, if for some reason they're going to be like struggling and not be, or they throw out like a watered down lineup, they're sitting some guys tonight, then definitely he's somebody you can consider. Bat wise, love the Padres. They're my favorite stack here. Lefties and righties against Thompson, and then like when they get to the bullpen, I think they have an advantage there too. And I think I'm going to have a Marlins stack definitely against Snell, because if he's going to be high owned, that's going to be great leverage. And I think the Marlins still have some nice pieces here with Rojas, Martes, Aguilar, Duvall, and I love Aflao. Aflao is going to be, as you know, I usually find a catcher in like the 2K range to use as a pivot point, and Aflao is the one that I'm locking in all my cash lineups. He's projected to bat 5th. He's 2.5K, and he was instrumental in their comeback win last night or yesterday, whenever they played. So, he came in and pinch hit and got a key hit. He had a double. So he's, not the best catcher in the world, but I think at the price and in the matchup, I think that's where I'm going to use him as my pivot point and then decide if I go up and down from there. Okay, so moving on to the next game, we have the Tampa Bay Rays against Cleveland Indians. you have Luis Patino, and he's okay. He's getting called back up. He had the unfortunate task of facing Toronto in Buffalo um, on a day last time, and I think he gave up like 11 earned runs or something. There was 11 runs given up in that game, so he gave up 5 of them. He still had like 5 strikeouts, so he has not started his major league career in the best form. So that was way back in early July. So now it's 20 days later. He's getting called back up again to, I don't know if it's going to be a spot start or if they're trying to work him into the rotation. It all depends on the Cleveland lineup if you're going to play him or not. I think he's interesting in GPPs because he's really good against right-handed batters. So if Cleveland rolls out a lot of righties, and if some of their big bats are still out, so like Fremel Reyes, he's better against lefties. Bradley started out the season on fire as a lefty, and he can barely get above single-digit DK points ever since then. Zimmer is interesting leading off at like 2.4, so he has some pop. So he's not like a superstar hitter. So, and Ramirez continues to be banged up with his elbow injury. So if they roll out a lineup with a lot of righties and a lot of lefties like Daniel Johnson and like Bradley, who's been struggling, and Zimmer's like the only like lefty there, maybe like Cesar Hernandez is a switch hitter, but it's not like really for power, more for contact. I can see making a case for Patino. Kale Quadrille on the other side, I'm not interested in. I absolutely love the left-handed bats against him. Even maybe throwing Randy Alexander in the stack. He had 2 home runs yesterday. He was just like at a monster day. And once they get past him and they get to the Cleveland bullpen, he might be. But he had 31 DK points. He's had 3 straight days over 10 DK points. So Randy has been doing really, really well. But you have like a lot of like Franco's like pretty high priced at 5.2 there. So if you want to skip him the stack, that's fine. But Meadows, Choi, Wendell, there's a lot of Kiermaier. It's cooled off a little bit. He was really good before the All-Star break, but at 2-1 has the lefty matchup also. Cleveland side, not too interested here. Maybe Zimmer is a one-off at 2.4. Cubs and Cardinals, you have Alize against Kim. I have really liked Kim, and he has done well recently. He has been solid to me at his price point. His last 4 games, 16.5 DK points, 27 DK points, 20 DK points, 19 DK points. Against San Francisco, against Chicago, he just recently played them and had 27.9 DK points. San Francisco again, and Arizona. He just seems to be consistent. 3 straight quality starts. He hasn't given up a run in the last 3 games. He's given up. He gave up 4 runs to Pittsburgh, but in 2, 4, 6, in 7 starts, besides the Pittsburgh game where he gave up 4, he's only given up 3 other runs. To me, that is tremendous. His control. Didn't really have too many strikeouts last time out, but San Francisco is a patient team, but did have 7 versus the Cubs in the game before. So I really like him as my SP2 today. I think at 8.1, he's a little bit more expensive than Snell, where I think the chalk's going to be, or Heaney in the next game we're going to talk about at 6.9. I think people might go down to him, but he's in a worse matchup. The Cubs have struggled at times. Chris Bryant is banged up. Rizzo is a lefty and lefty matchup. So it kind of neutralizes that, although Rizzo is a very good major league hitter. So Wisdom, there's some worries with some of the batters here in the Cubs, but they just haven't seemed to really been able to put it together recently. So I think that Kim has another solid start here, and gets anywhere from 15 to 20 DK points, and is a good solid safe value. Alizé on the other side, he's a righty against almost an all righty lineup. So I could see playing him. I think with him is like how many innings he's going to go. He had one game where he's gone 7 innings against Cincinnati, but the rest of them, he seems like to go like 4 to 5. He's had a couple where he's been 3 to 2, and he really hasn't gotten above single digit DK points. So not too interested there. I'd rather save $300 and go with Kim. Bat wise, like I said, really not interested in too many bats from this game at all. So going to the Angels and the Twins, Heaney and Maeda. Maeda, I think, is okay at 9K. Again, I think he's a little bit too expensive. Doesn't excite me too much. He's been solid, but who he's pitched against really hasn't been great. Like he's faced Detroit, and Kansas City recently. Struggled against the White Sox, and then he had a streak or a run against Texas, Seattle, and Cleveland where his DK points were somewhere in the teens. I think he probably ends up there today, around 15 DK points, it seems, maybe up to like 18. The Angels, again, don't have a great offense, still having Rendon out and still having Trout out, but Ohtani seems to be having a really, really great season. Walsh, Fletcher just keeps on hitting the ball, but not for power. Even though he broke his hitting streak, he's come back and he's gotten hits in the last 2 games. And he just usually ends up getting at least some DK points. So his price is going up. So Heaney on the other side, like Minnesota, like I played a pitcher against them yesterday because I thought it was a good idea, and like Minnesota just came out and came to life and destroyed them. So that didn't work out. So I think that Heaney's always hit or miss. So he's one of those guys where if you play Heaney in your cash lineup, then to make sure you have a Minnesota head stack and a GPP for $1. So if he gets crushed, then at least maybe Minnesota goes off and is low owned. If Heaney's popular in cash, then you have some leverage there and you break even at the end of the day. So again, Angels bats, love Fletcher. He's getting a little bit expensive there. I might be able to still squeeze him for 4-4. I liked him when he was under 4K and like kind of my secret weapon. Ohtani, 6K is a little bit expensive in this matchup here. Walsh, so I don't really think I'm taking any of these Angels bats, maybe a couple one-offs here or there. Minnesota, on the other hand, I think are my favorite GPP stack because, like I said, Heaney, I think he's going to be popular. I think there's good leverage here, and I like the righties against the lefty. So definitely going to have a stack of them. Okay, moving on to the next game, we have the A's and the Mariners, Sean Manaea and Chris Flexen. Manaea has been good recently, so I think, a good being like 15 to 20 DK points, which on this slate I think is a little bit expensive for that, but I think he's offers the second amount of floor, so he'd be my second favorite pitcher. Seattle, I do think it's a thing when teams come away from Coors Field and then their timing's off a little bit just because the air is different. So Seattle only has a 3.76 run total. It's, I think it's the second lowest on the slate. I don't have all of them in front of me right now, but it seems like only the Giants against Walker Buehler have a lower one. So I definitely like Manaea here. He might be a good pivot off of Buehler, and it might be a night, and we'll talk about that in lineup constructions, where we might just have to pay up for 2 pitchers. Flexen on the other side is interesting also. I think he's a decent GPP play. Oakland has some strikeouts in the lineup. They're hot and cold. Flexen's been decent recently, 17, 28, 23. Toronto, we can throw that game out, 21 and 35. So and those are pretty solid numbers. So if you don't, if you're not feeling like Kim or Snell as your SP2, I think he would be the number 3 choice over like Montgomery and Morton in this matchup. So I think people are still going to look at like early season flexing and KBO flexing and really kind of stray away from him. A's don't really have a super high total at 4.25 or 24. So, Olsen and Moreland, the lefties here, but I think he can maybe get some strikeouts against the righties, especially down lower in the lineup. Okay, final game, DeStefani and Buehler. DeStefani's having a solid season. He's 9-3, 300 less than Flexen. I think he'd be a good GPP option. He's been solid. He recently had 13 points against the Dodgers. That's really not enough to get it done, but he really hasn't gotten blown up in any game recently. He has had, out of the last 10 games, he's had 7 quality starts, only against Arizona, and he only gave up 1 run there. I just don't think he went deep enough into the game. And against the Dodgers, where he gave up 3 earned runs. But it might not be the same Dodger team because Mookie Betts is still out. Dave Roberts, the manager, said that he might end up on the IL. They're trying to just have him nurse his injury, but he might end up there anyways. And then, Turner was rested. Bellinger's back, but he's not the same hitter he has been. Muncy's been having a great season. Seager was supposed to be back, but he had a little bit of a setback, so he probably won't be back till possibly the next series in a week or so. And some of these younger guys have been really, really good. This team just has a treasure chest of talent, it seems, to plug in night after night. So I think that DeStefani is a good leverage play if you think if the Dodgers come out with a watered down lineup. But the problem is it's like so late. I think he's a better play on like a late slate if you want to take a chance to be different. If people are in DK are going to go like Buehler or Manaea and as their pitchers, or Buehler and Flexen, and try to save a little bit, I think he might be a nice pivot off that if you go like DeStefani and Manaea for like the late slate. But I think it's kind of a risk to play him in any cash games or any more than $1 GPP for the early main slate. So bats. Oh, of course, I've always liked the Giants. I pair them every single night with the Red Sox. And last night, they were my highest scoring lineups, were my Giant and Red Sox stacks with all the home runs that the Red Sox hit. And then I got ones from Flores, and I think Yastrzemski had one also. So that just continues to make me money overall. Like there's some nights it doesn't hit, but I can't say enough about the consistency of playing the same 2 teams if possible over and over and over again in good situations. I love how Kike has second base and outfield eligibility again. So he's been so easy to flex back and forth now. It was so hard when like the Red Sox had 5 outfielders to try to fit people in and make the stack work, because then I was forced to play Solano because there was no other second base option. So, but right now the different position eligibility between the 2 teams, like the lineups are so easy to build, and it usually gets you a decent mid-range, or even you can get some of the cheaper guys in with the injuries to San Francisco to get a good pitcher in. So speaking of injuries, they still have Belt out. They lost Crawford now. Longoria is still out. So Walker Buehler, I think, is definitely the highest floor on the slate. I think he's the easiest one to get to 20 points tonight. So I think definitely going to lock him in my SP1. So let's look at some lineup builds. So like I said, I think I'm going to definitely going to lock in Walker Buehler as my pitcher. And I said I'm going to take Alfaro as my catcher. So for SP2, I mean, there's so many options here. I think I like him the most, but I'm okay going down to Flexen. So stack wise, like San Diego is the only one that's really standing out as like the really nice cash stack here. So Cronenworth, Machado, Tatis, Grissom, and I think Pham there. And that doesn't leave you a ton for, if I put Kim in there. So if you go down, it's just going to give you to like anywhere to Snell or Flex, and it's going to give you some more salary there. It's going to leave either first or second base open because you can move Cronenworth between the 2. And again, I like the two guys from Boston. You have like Chavis and you have Dahlback that can fit in either one of those spots, and they're anywhere from like 2 to 2.4. So you have about 2.5 left. So if you go with the 2, that gives you about 2.9 for outfield. So and there's some decent plays in that range there. So I feel good with that. If I go all the way down to, that's if you go with Kim. If I go all the way down to, well, if I go down to Heaney, which I think some people might do, which I think is a little bit risky, that gives you 3-1 for first or second base. And for outfield, if you want to be super different in the stack, if one of the outfielders sits or something, you throw Hosmer in there at first base, and that's another way to go with that one. So if you're not going double pitcher up and you're going with a mid-range one, I think the Padres are my favorite stack there. Again, you can do Boston, you can do Minnesota in there. I think Minnesota might be more of a GPP play. But the other build I went was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Walker Buehler and I'm going to take Manaea. I'm going to take the two most expensive pitchers to get the floor there. I might have a floor of 40 to 50 points there. So with a night where like hitting is not as certain, I want to lock in my floor with my pitchers. I know they're going to be out there. I know that they're in good matchups and they should turn out some decent scores. Not a guarantee because nothing's guaranteed in baseball, but I think that's the closest thing to floor that I can find. Floro, throw him in as my catcher at 2.5. And then I just like, it leaves you around 4K per batter. So I started looking at it and then looking at the 4K range. I got to first base and I'm like, you know what, Choi? I said, we like left-handers against Quintrell, so I'll throw him in there. And then I looked and 4.6. Okay, it's a little bit of a stretch for my budget, but Lowe's there, he from Tampa Bay, he's a lefty again. It corresponds with Choi. That's fine. Third base, Franco, like I said, a little bit expensive. So I think, I was looking around the 4K range. I found Riley, who has a really good matchup for the Braves. So throw him in there. Shortstop, I could take pay up here, but I really don't like paying up at shortstop. I'm already, if I'm playing another stack. So Gregorius, possibly he's got the matchup. Rojas, possibly, he's got the splits matchup. Swanson 4.8's getting a little bit out of my price range, but then I'm looking and I'm like, oh, Wall. He might be batting ninth. Maybe he'll move up in the lineup. He's decent. He's got the splits advantage, and he's only 2.3. So why don't I punt shortstop? I know he's had zeros for 3 straight games, but you know what? Maybe I'll just throw him in there. But like I said, you can go up to Franco if you can find it. You just have to punch your outfield. And then for outfield, if I'm going with all these Tampa Bay guys, I might as well throw Meadows in to finish the mini stack or the full stack, however I want to go. I can throw in Kiermaier also, who's a cheap guy. If I did go up to Franco's and I don't think I want to do Walls, that works also. But the one guy that I'm definitely making a priority to throw into this build, like I said, is going to be Allen from the Yankees. I just see how, even though he's hitting down in the order, he's really manufacturing hits and he's like stretching them out. So I want to get him in there. And then there's so many other options just to fill in for outfield. So just to kind of final wrap up here, my favorite pitchers are going to be Buehler and Manaea. Maeda is okay. Also, DeSclafani would be a GPP. Dart for the mid-range, my favorite one would be Kim. Next would be Flexen. And then I think Morton and Montgomery are okay. Snell would be a GPP just because I'm intrigued by the matchup against the Marlins. This might be where he's able to get right and have a good game, but I'm very skeptical and I'm not going to risk it in cash. For the low ones, Heaney, I think, is risky against Minnesota, but I think at the price point, I think he's going to be popular. And then Patino, if there's an all right-handed lineup, I think is viable, and Houck would be the YOLO play. He might only get 3 to 4 innings, but he does have some K stuff, and I think if the Yankees do throw out the watered-down lineup and struggle on the road, then he's good. Stack-wise, San Diego, Boston, Tampa Bay, my favorite ones and the top ones, and throw the Dodgers in there also, depending on who they throw out in their lineup. GPP, Minnesota is definitely my favorite. Atlanta and Philly. I think they're pretty much even there. I think there's some potential in that game. Oakland possibly against Flexen if he does have an off game. Miami's my favorite cheap stack. Really like him against Snell, especially if Snell's popular. The Yankees, like I said, especially some of those guys on the bottom of the order who have done really, really well manufacturing some points while taking advantage of their playing time. Seattle against Manea would be a leverage stack, and the Cubs against Kim would be a leverage stack also. So thanks for watching. Love your comments. Really appreciate them. Trying to work on the sound of these videos. Sometimes it was too low. Sometimes it was too close to the mic. So hopefully today we did better with that. So appreciate your feedback. We're just trying to make these as informative and, as much content as we can get you to try to help you out with building lineups to do well in DFS. It's a long season. I haven't looked at the achievements recently, but I think, if you've been playing every single day for the MLB season, we're somewhere in the hundreds. It's definitely a grind, and appreciate everybody tuning in every single day and just, riding it out with us. Let's see here. Looking to see what day of we have played 109 days of Major League Baseball. Today would be the 110th. So it's just a crazy long season, and appreciate everybody taking the ride with us at FSI with McKinley and I, and trying to help you guys out. So give us a like if we're helping you out. That really helps us out. Subscribe to our channel so that we can get more exposure to our videos out to more people. If you found this and it helps, recommend it to a friend. We really appreciate it. So thanks for watching. I'm Megarula31. Good luck tonight.